All right, what's going on, everybody? Taylor Garcia here with Talk with Taylor. This is a very special episode because this is my first episode with a guest. I've been talking about it for a while, and I've been wanting to get some people on that are better than me in different areas, smarter than me in different areas, and just to kind of help you guys out in different areas. So today I have a very special guest. He's a dear friend of mine, and he's a master at being involved in his community. And this episode, I wanted to kind of dive deep into being in the community, how that can help, whether you're just in sales or you're a small business owner, etc. And so I have my dear friend on, Stephen Turnbull. Welcome, Stephen.
Taylor, what's going on, sir? I want to know how many people you asked before me for the first episode. How many people must have said they couldn't make it before you got down to my name on the list? But look, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no problem, man. You were a no-brainer for me because I've been watching you grow your business, for everybody knows, and Stephen will get into it, but he started a scratch insurance agency, and I've been watching you kind of grow it, and we've talked about how you're, 100% referral basically, and I just see all the community stuff you're doing, and I think a lot of salespeople and businesses can really learn from that because I know I've done a little bit of it, but I should probably be a little better at it. And when I do, it really does make an impact. And so, give everybody just a little inside scoop of kind of who you are, a little bit of background and your business.
Sure, man. Well, I appreciate it again. I'll start by saying I apologize for my voice. I spent Saturday at the Syracuse Wake Forest football game and got a little too into it. So my voice is still catching up with me. But for your audience, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Stephen Turnbull, president of T5 Insurance Service. We are an independent insurance agency in central New York. So Utica is the closest city. We run our office out of a small town named Clinton, New York. We're about 40 minutes east of Syracuse. So we are not near Sean Fitzgerald in the concrete jungle. We are definitely up in about the center of the state. So yeah, like Taylor said, I started a scratch agency almost 19 months ago, and it's been a heck of a journey along the way. Learned a lot about myself, and excited to kind of dive into some of the stuff that's worked and some of the stuff that I'm continuing to learn about that journey as we continue to go here. So again, thanks for having me.
Dude, no problem, man. Yeah, it's awesome to watch your journey. And it's so interesting because I watch, we have some other friends that are in the business, whether it's insurance or others, and they all do things really differently, right? Because I was more the digital guy and the marketing side, and then we have a mutual friend, Sean, who is more of like the implementer. He's the cold caller. He's doing things like that. And then there's you out there just being in all the community events, supporting the local football games, Rotary, etc. Share a little bit about in your experience, like being active in your community. How has that really helped you when you first started off in the business up until now at 19 months? Is that been basically your only focus as far as growing the business, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I think to directly answer your question, we got to back up a little bit. So,
Okay.
I was always as far as my professional career, I was always in insurance. I was in a family agency for about 6.5 years before I left and started my own. And that agency is very well known, well established in the area. And it was last name insurance agency. So everybody knows kind of the family and different things. And I moved away for school about 2.5 hours away, and then came back to work in the agency. And I knew that there was certainly going to be maybe an advantage to working in the family agency and being a part of that legacy. But I also knew that I had to grow my own brand and grow the brand of Stephen Turnbull. And the community was definitely a large part of that. So, I think from the business that we're in, we help people, right? And so it's so easy to maybe have those warmer conversations when you're actually out there in the community doing different things, serving on the boards, in the rotaries, in the chambers, in the BNI groups, whatever it might be. We can dive into each of those kind of sectors, but I think it's important to first find out what is impactful and meaningful to you, because when with community work and kind of in our industry, the community play, if we will, as far as like the sales and marketing side of things, you have to be passionate for what you're doing. Like it's not, it can't be, I'm going to devote my time to this organization and be on this board so I can get so much, X in business. It's got to be something that where the business and the relationships that you make that tie back to your business are an add-on, if you will.
Mm,
So, what I did, and stop me if I'm going too far down the conversation here, Taylor, but what
sure.
I did was I really just infused myself in every aspect I possibly could when it came to community, and then found, what worked and where I'd like to spend my time and where I felt I can make the most impact. So for me, that was, the local Rotaries, the BNIs, the chambers, and then there's a blind and visually impaired agency that my family's been a part of now. I'm the third generation of people that have served on the boards. And so that organization means a lot to our family and is a lot of the work that we do as far as volunteering. So, I kind of found those silos of where do I want to spend my time, and indirectly, business comes from it, because we get back to the old BNI slogan of like, knowing, and trusting. And you think
Right.
about whether it's insurance, whatever it might be, even if it's buying an Amazon product online, I bet you everybody is going to the ratings and looking at what other people are saying, whether they're people that or strangers, and making your buying decisions off of that feedback, right? So, my goal was just to be out there. I've never been a salesy person. I've never been a pushy salesperson. We can get into the recent leads thing that's been interesting,
Yeah.
but it's never just it's never kind of been my forte. It's more of like, when I want people to think of insurance, they think of Stephen Turnbull. And
Mm.
so that's kind of, that's the play of where I've been. And so far it's been working well. And I can look back at the different organizations that I just talked about, and the impact that we've made over just a short time has been super exciting and impactful. So I'm just, excited for what the future has to hold in regards to that stuff.
Yeah, that's great, man. And you're absolutely right where you're saying like your heart has to be there, because I think even in the few times that I've gone to some community events, you can kind of spot out the ones that are there selfishly to try to just get business, or the ones that are there to actually like help set up chairs or to help
Yeah.
set up the event. And even at at my local church, I know, I'm not going to get too deep into that, but it's the same thing, right? I'm not there for that, but sometimes people come up to me knowing what I do, it
Mm-hmm.
just sparks the conversations. And
Sure.
that's a much better approach to sales, having somebody come to you and say, hey, I know, man, and so yeah. So as far as, and one thing that kind of coincides with that, which I wanted to touch on real quick, I think because the community is so strong and you're much heavier into the relationship side, do you think that goes hand in hand with Google reviews and how you're getting the reviews that you are? Because I think a lot of businesses struggle with that. You know what I mean? But I see how many reviews you're getting, and it's almost like, for me, I watch, it's like every client you have, and it's always a personal message. Is that kind of also because you're more focused on the more community family feel of it all versus, hey, we're just a transactional turn and churn and burn kind of thing?
So I would say no. I would say that with the community stuff, and if you want to tie it into the reviews, it just comes down to intentionality.
Mm.
I'm very intentional of when I ask for a review. Only 19 months in business, knock on wood, we haven't had anybody that's complained about us yet. It will
Yeah,
happen, but
sure.
I'm not going to go out there and ask for a review when something's going wrong. I'm rather going to ask for a review when they're telling me how great of a job that our agency did to help them through whatever problem we solved for them. And
Mm.
I think of you creating the brand of Taylor Garcia and everything that you've done with Talk with Taylor, the amazing stuff that you put on social content, on social media. That's your brand, right? And I think a lot of people, there's so many more people out there in the community that do way better things than me, but you may
Right.
refer to me as and think of me as a community guy because that's what I'm constantly putting out there. So I think it's
Yeah,
just being intentional of saying, and I think the Google reviews we can get into is kind of a separate conversation. But with the
sure.
community stuff, it's I just want to be seen that I'm a part of whatever X, Y, and Z is doing, right? And
Yeah.
moving our office just recently to the town of Clinton, there's a lot of things that I want to do that I want. I'm a part of what you are. I'm here local. We put up a
Yeah.
banner at the local ice rink. It's a huge hockey town. So, hey, we're there. We sponsored the recent shopper stroll that they had for Christmas. Like, hey, we're here. I just want people to know and see that I'm a real person, right? So that when you get that Geico renewal, you get the second thought of, oh, can Stephen, is this something Stephen and T5 can help me with? And so it's just kind of being
Right.
intentional and disciplined in the long game. And I'll tell you one thing, with talking to as many people over this last 19 months of starting T5, and you said in the beginning how many different ways you can skin the cat in this industry. And I know this
Yeah.
isn't an insurance podcast, but if we're looking at one industry specific,
Sure.
how many different ways you can do it. We have friends that have a second bedroom in their house and they don't leave that bedroom and cold call all day long and do
Right.
super well. I've never made a cold call in my life, and
Yeah.
still I'm doing okay. But it's being intentional with whatever avenue you're going to decide to go down. Look at Taylor Garcia and social media. That's
Yeah.
intentionality. I'll never
Right.
forget meeting you for the first time at a conference and your flight gets delayed. And I was telling somebody at the registration table, yeah, Taylor's coming. Someone said, are you coming? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, yeah, I just saw he posted a video. And here's Taylor posting this 5-star quality video from from the tarmac on the plane about his flight being delayed. That's intentionality. So I
Yeah.
think in saying how I went to the BNIs, the chambers, the rotaries, and all of that, you
Sure.
got to find what feels right for you, because it's going to be different for everybody. And how can you be
Yeah.
intentional to set yourself up for success in that manner, whatever that might be.
Man. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And it is a lot about being intentional, because I think that that's where I gravitated, was speaking on video and doing that stuff, because that's just naturally who I am. And I think we do, everybody does things so differently, and that's why I wanted to touch on this a little bit. But I know that this isn't necessarily for everyone, right? Not everyone's going to join the Rotary, not everyone's going to be in the Chamber of Commerce. Now, I think, is it a good thing, especially if you're a small business and in sort of a small town? I think it is, right? Because we've always been a part of the chamber. Now, we've never been extremely active in it, but we always tried to help where we could and sponsor. But we always saw the benefits of it. And it was one thing with like the chamber, we always talked about, my father-in-law and I, was like, a lot of times we didn't get a direct ROI on it, right? Like, you can't say, hey, we paid X amount into the chamber, we got this amount of business from it. But I remember we'd be in the local restaurant, they're like, oh, hey, like, and then you just start to get to know each other. And at some point, maybe something's going to happen. And this could be for any real estate lenders. Like, doesn't necessarily have to be insurance, where, if you're just around your town and doing stuff and
Can I
supporting
expand on
them.
that? I think
Yeah.
I think you need to be aware of what room you're in. So when I look at the community involvement of myself, I really have it down to 3 silos: BNI,
Okay.
Rotary, Chamber, and then the blind agency I talked about is kind of an extra caveat to that, but just general community involvement, right? I
Right.
know that when I'm going to BNI, although there's 28 people in there that have become good friends of mine, I'm looking for business. I'm intentionally looking for this class this week. Here's a great story that I had. I helped Mrs. Smith do this, and I am looking for this. Who can help me? And I know that's very intentional. Rotary has been a long time family thing, and it's always something I wanted to do. It's a good give back for me. It's the 1 hour a week that I can go to that meeting and I can turn off T5. I can turn off insurance, and I can go be Stephen Turnbull, and I can sit there and I can talk about a fundraising event that we're going to do to put $20,000 into the community that needs it, or whatever that is, right? That's that silo. And then to your point, the chamber, which I'm on the board of directors for the chamber, I know that I can look back at my chamber involvement in the summer of 2016. I know exactly where I was. I was at Piggy Pat's barbecue for the first speed networking event. I barely knew how to spell the word insurance. It was my 3rd day on the job. And I got up there and spoke about our company for the past company I was with, for 2 minutes at the time. And I met a guy named John, who introduced me to somebody else named Sarah, who got me involved into the young professionals group that 2 years later, I ended up chairing that young professional group that worked my way up to now being on the board. And that's a true story. And I can tell you that I remember those events happening. And if it wasn't for being
Yeah.
intentional and saying, this chamber is going to be a long play, but I want to be involved because all of these people that are being involved, I want to like, know, and trust them. I want to get them in my circle. And looking back to seeing that, I remember being the chair of the young professional group one meeting, and I'm like, oh, I don't want it. I got to run another meeting at 6:30. I don't want. And then I looked around. Half of the people were my clients.
Oh, wow.
And not once during any time in that organization did I say, call me because I'm the best for your insurance needs.
Right.
But I became relatable. I became friends with these people. I built the relationships that if their mom, grandmother, aunt, uncle had something wrong with their insurance policies, they sent them my way. That if their renewal came up and they thought of me, they sent them my way. So it's the complete long game. But and I know you wanted this, to be about community. So I apologize for going on a little bit of a rant.
No, this is great.
When looking to go down this avenue, it's a long game.
Yeah.
Don't expect it to be, I'm going to make 100 cold calls today. I'm going to hope to close 10 of them. Because it's not what it's going to be. You're going to meet somebody that hopefully you have a relationship that maybe, like exactly out of the words you said, Taylor, down the road, they're going to think of Jackson. Down the road, they're going to remember Taylor. They're going to follow him on Instagram and see it. And I don't think there's, one way or the other to do it. Like I said, I think it's so individual to put yourself out there in as many places as possible, see what sticks for yourself, see what feels right for you, and then you can navigate kind of that decision on your own.
Yeah, totally. Man. So, and then kind of with that, so if somebody, so say hypothetically, there's a new guy, whether it's insurance, he's a lender or something, and he's like, hey, I'm going to get into my local chamber because I need to meet some people. Expand a little bit on like some like do's and don'ts maybe in a community basis, because like I remember when I first started, like nobody really shared with me how to like network or anything like that, so I'd go to these mixers or I'd go to these kind of local events, and like at first I was guilty of just like passing out my card to everyone like, hey, I'm Taylor, I do this, and I just found like at the end of the day, like that now knowing more, I'm like, oh, that's probably not the right approach. So like expand on that a little bit, because like I think a lot of us are in sales especially are kind of thrown into these networking events, whether it's community, BNI or something like that. But I love how you said like you didn't pitch your company or to quote or I'm the best guy to any of them, but yet you were still getting business from it. Is that what being a local guy, going in and saying, hey, don't make it all about you, right? I mean,
well, I think we go back to I don't think there's a right answer and a wrong answer here.
Sure.
But I will say that at these networking events, I feel like everybody can smell the commission breath from a mile away. So don't be that guy. If you're looking to be the guy to show up to a networking event and hopefully quote 5 people the next day, that's not for me. I'd rather have the approach of like, hey, here's who I am, and I'm looking to make these relationships, and then going to maybe the head of these organizations saying, here's who I am, I'm looking to make a difference. Like, how can I get involved? Because how you can get involved will directly correlate in your involvement within that organization, within that community. And then you'll like, know, and trust those people within that organization, within that community, whatever it'll be, versus trying to hard sell somebody. And again, there's no right and there's no wrong. That's what I think I've found some success in with being the community guy, if you will, is just kind of being there to help. Right. I mean, like we talk, there's a huge push in the insurance industry right now about being the trusted advisor. Right. We hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And like, you want to be known, at least I want to be known as kind of the person that somebody can call up and say, hey, I'm going through this with my insurance. Can you take a look? Or, can you help me with this? And like, as competitive as our industry is, and especially the market and all of that right now, there's a lot of opportunities where we say, sorry, we can't help you, but here's what you should do. Call your guy that you have right now and do X, Y, and Z, and it's probably going to help you out. Right.
Totally.
And that person, and I'm being industry specific because this is what I do every day, but that person that you do that to will never forget that. And then when that comes up for renewal again and they have a 20% increase, or, Aunt Sally's complaining about her renewal or whatever it is, You're
Yeah.
going to come top to mind, not because you sat there and tried to sell them something, because you were simply helping and they became relatable to you. You built that relationship.
Totally.
So, I think that's the biggest thing, is like, just become relatable. And like you said, I think your question was like, what's your piece of advice for going to these events? Just be yourself. Like
Yeah.
there's nobody that anybody else wants to meet besides the person that you are. Like, just be the person that you are, make the relationships, follow
Yeah.
up. I think we can dive into that. I think the follow up is key with everything.
Yeah.
But just be yourself.
Right. Absolutely. And I struggled with that in the very beginning of being myself. I would go to these events and try to be this quote unquote professional, right? And you can still be professional, right? But for me, I was very I would walk out of there like, how like I was playing this persona of somebody that I wasn't. And the minute I finally there's a pivotal moment in my life where I kind of shifted that to say I'm going to be who I am. It really opened up more doors, and it made other people, like, it was easier for them to connect with me because now I'm sharing the interests that I had. Or it was, maybe it was, for me, it was talking about music, or it was talking about these other things, where before it was always insurance, 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 and I need to do this, this, and this. And everyone was kind of like, oh, this guy, you know what I mean? And once I kind of loosened up a little bit, and I kind of, like you said, just opened up to be just who you are, it really developed a lot more relationships and friendships with other people, because then it just sparked further conversations, and I think that's really important.
You got to remember that everybody is at these events and all of that for the same reason you are, right?
Right.
Over time, there's going to be the cliques and this and that, and everybody who knows each other.
Yeah.
But everybody is still there to try to meet new people, grow their network, grow their business, or just network and generally provide a new network of people, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I think if you just go in with that mindset of like, hey, everyone's here to do the same thing, and because I'm look, I get it. Trust me. Even still, walking into a new event, it can be the most intimidating thing ever if you don't know anybody. If you're going to a new organization, you're walking to a after hours with 100 people in it, you don't know one. That is an
Right.
intimidating thing, right? I
Sure.
mean, but if you just consider that everybody's here for the same reason, I have
Yeah.
something valuable to share with the people of what I do and who I am, and lead
Hmm.
with that. I think that's the right approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to kind of make a turn on this because I know we were talking about the community stuff, and that was kind of the focus of this. But one thing I wanted to touch on that I think that you do really well at, that I think a lot of people can benefit from, no matter what they're doing, especially in sales. I think and you've showed me some of the stuff you've done in the past. That's kind of why I'm bringing this up, is you do really well at the personal touch with, whether it's your current clients, it's maybe somebody you're working, like it could be a prospect, right? But the one thing I really, where I'm going with this is, like, I've seen you with like your like cards that you send out, right? And we've talked about this because you like, not, it's not just a blank happy birthday card, right? Or a generic birthday card, I should say, rather. You like customize these, right, to them, or it's a wedding, something. Touch on that a little bit, because I think too many times, again, I'm going back to like being very transactional, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. But I think with the little bit of effort, that extra effort that you're putting in there, it really makes a big difference. So like, just touch on that a little bit, and how you've seen, your clients respond to that, because I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Where do I want to take this? Okay, so like the first thing that comes to mind when you talk about all that is, anytime somebody asks me anything along those lines, I say that no matter what industry you're in or what you do, you have to do two things. And that's do your job and do the right thing. And I think by doing the right thing is giving my clients a service and an experience that's unlike anything else. And what an opportunity in the insurance space to do just that, because most people are just shopping online. They're fine with a 1-800 number where they're waiting 45 minutes to change their address on their policies. And there's such an opportunity there. So again, I mean, it's
Right.
going to be a repetitive answer, but it just comes down to intentionality. I mean,
Yeah.
I make a very personal connection with a lot of my clients, and we're friends on Facebook, or we're on LinkedIn together, or I know them from the chamber, I know them from Rotary, I know them from BNI. When these things happen within their life, why
Yeah.
not be a part of that? why not pour into that for them? So I think, Taylor, you're referring to the cards that we do for weddings. If there's
Yeah.
anybody that I'm connected with on a personal level that's a client of ours that gets married, when they share that photo, I make sure that within 4 days they're going to have a card in their mailbox that has a picture of their wedding photo on the front of it and a message from us that says, congratulations, we're so happy to be a part of your life during this time. We're so thrilled to be a part of the journey as we watch you, whatever, from
Yeah.
all of us at T5 Insurance. And it's a different touch because an insurance agency is not supposed to do that. Right. We're just supposed to sell the policy, service the policy. If they have an accident, they'll call us. But it's like, I'm just trying to do that different touch. I mean, perfect example. I'm looking at my other screen over here, and I have a picture sitting right there. A family friend who's not a client was on a local podcast, and they posted the podcast. And I took a screenshot of him on the podcast and put it on a card and sent it out to him. Now, he's not a client. That may get him curious about T5 Insurance, or it may not. Sure. It also may get him curious when he's out getting the mail with his neighbor and they're both getting the mail at the same time to say, oh, my insurance renewal again. Hey, why don't you call my friend who just sent me a card that was very personalized that means something to me, right? Yeah. So I think it's striking the iron while it's hot in any way that you can, to provide that service that we all deserve. And I don't have it down at all. I got to really focus on getting it more into a process and more dialed in. But for the kind of where I'm at right now, it works out well. And the responses, people will then take a picture of it and tag you in social media. I had another one that they were putting up their Christmas tree and they put the card that I sent on the Christmas tree and took a picture of it and tagged another reason why you should call T5 Insurance. Not anything of that had anything to do with price on insurance. Not anything of that had anything to do with service on insurance. It had to do with the experience. Right. The feeling that they felt. So it's just being intentional, and giving, I guess, really, as cliche as it sounds, just giving your clients the experience that would wow you. Right.
Yeah. And I think that's, man, and what a thing to do, where I think that really does make one stand out, because I don't think, I can't speak for everyone, but I know there's a majority of people that don't really think that way. And so to have something like that, like you said, like I do handwritten notes, and the responses I get from that is just amazing. Like I'll get a text, Taylor, I got your code. Thanks so much, man. Like that's amazing. Or just little things like that, where it only took us 5-10 minutes out of our day to do. But that experience is really, really an amazing thing. And that could go for any real type of business. You know what I mean? So, whether you're a retail store or whatever, the experience is a big point.
But the experience is nothing if you have no follow-up. So I literally
expand on that.
I didn't plan on this, but literally, I've got 3 cards right here on my desk. From an event last week, and I'm going to make sure to send them a card or send them a note, send them an email, whatever it was, of one of the guys' names. I'm looking right at it. Russell. Hey, Russell, it's great to meet you. Look forward to connecting. Hope to see you at the next event. That's all it has to be. And what is Russell said? Wow, Stephen took the time to follow up or just say, "Hey, nice to meet you." Yeah, that little extra can go a long way. And I think of one book recommendation that I would highly recommend anybody that looking to go the community route is Giftology. I'm trying to think. I think I shared it with you, Taylor. I don't forget the author's name. Seeing if I got it over there, if it's at home. But it talks about the intentionality of gifting. And I'll give you an example of a new mortgage relationship I was looking to make. And for those of you who may be listening that aren't in insurance, mortgage representatives could be a great referral source for us insurance folks. And so I did an email introduction to this guy. It was a video. It was intentional. I called him by name. I said, I'd love to get together. We got lunch and we were just talking. And I said, it was about August. I said, so who are you rooting for this year for football? I've been a Jets fan for forever. They're terrible, this and that. So I made a note, Jets fan. Good, perfect. And went to Amazon when I got into the car after the lunch, typed in New York Jets, found some memorabilia that was $10 and sent it to his house and said, hey, I know that they haven't had the best seasons in the past, but I hope this helps them win a couple games this year or whatever. Something stupid, and send it to
Yeah.
him. But now that's something that he's not going to, every time he looks at whatever it was that you give
Yep.
him or whatever that gift is, it's so intentional. And I think
Yeah.
no matter where you're at, I'm a small agency guy, right? It's just me. I've got an
Sure.
assistant, but no matter where you're at, I think with automation and the online platforms and the abilities to be intentional with everybody within your organization, even your employees, now than ever is the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, it is. You're right. And I think, well, I for sure have to do a better job at that sometimes, because there's times that I do it well, and then there's other times I get caught up in the day to day and I forget to do it. So the consistency is important, and that's one thing I struggle with sometimes, because there's certain times I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna go super intentional on this. I'm gonna send them a video. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, and then sometimes I'll have another client come on and I don't do any of it, and I'm like, ah. So I get that, and that was one thing I saw a lot of success with, what you were talking about, the follow up. So I used to go to some of these, I had a good friends that were in the mortgage industry,
Sure.
and we'd go to these real estate events, and they were networking realtors, and I'm just going for the mortgage lenders, but also kind of the realtors, but I was kind of doing both. And that was one thing that really I got a lot of, comments on, was like you were exactly saying. I took their cards, and when I got back home, I just made a couple videos like, hey, it was such an awesome time meeting you. Like, I'd love to connect further. Like, here's my social media stuff. Like, let's connect. Let's get lunch again, whatever it was. And they were like, oh, dude. And I sent it like the second I got home. So it was that same day. And it was just like, wow, like that's really cool. So that intention, this was talking about community, but I feel like the word intentionals come up more often, more than anything else. And that's, you're absolutely right. They go hand in hand, I think, with just everything.
I know our friend Maverick Pitchford who's another agent, has a specific pipeline in his CRM for referral partners. So he has specific automation and touch points that are set up for referral partners that he meets along the way. I mean, think about that. Like it doesn't have to be just for your clients, right? You can set up these things where, and let's call a spade, where you're saying, hey, Bob, let's get together. We haven't talked in a while, and automation's doing it. Bob doesn't know that.
Sure.
And but you're being intentional still by setting that up to make sure that you're in front of Bob. Whether that's automated, whether that's a handwritten note, whether it's a phone call, whatever it is, you just gotta create that experience.
Yeah, definitely, man. This is really important to me, because I've watched your journey of, we've been friends now around a year or so, and it's just, I've watched you kind of go from I wasn't there when you first started, but close to, so where you were to now has been such an awesome thing to watch, right? And you've taught me so much, from so many different areas, leadership to, I joke that like you have no employees, but you're like, you help me so much on the leadership side of things. And I can't wait to see where it goes, because how intentional you are with your clients and your referral partners, etc. Like, it only is going to be tenfold when you got employees. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's another really big thing that a lot of employers, I think, lack on, is being intentional in that regard. Again, can't speak about them all, but there are those ones,
Yeah.
But man, anything else? I'll kind of give you the last minute little thing here before we wrap up. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you got a business to run, so we'll wrap up. But any last things you want to give to anyone else that's maybe just getting into sales, business?
No, I first off, I appreciate you again having me on, and appreciate what you're doing with Talk with Taylor. I love the documentation. I think, one thing that's cool about what you're doing is like you really focus too on like, hey, I'm just documenting my journey. How cool will it be in 3-4 months, 3-4 years to look back and be like, hey, remember when we had that conversation? Remember where we were at? So, I applaud you for what you're doing. I would just, when it comes to intentionality and community, like, it's going to be super uncomfortable for people. And we just talked for 40 minutes, and like, please, I don't know everything. Okay. And there's still rooms that I go in that I feel so uncomfortable in and get so anxious about, that I don't know anybody here and this and that, but just remember, there's no growth in the comfort zone in whatever you're
Love
trying
it.
to do, and that's something I've certainly felt over the last 19 months of starting a company from nothing.
Yeah.
So, if anybody is curious about what they should do when it comes to community, want to bounce anything off me, I think, Taylor, I'm an open book and I'm happy to have any conversation. And again, I apologize for my scratchy throat here and lack of voice, but I think we got through it pretty good.
I think so. I think so. Well, thanks, Stephen. And just real quick, if anyone was to, get in contact with you or follow you, where's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, Instagram and Facebook probably best. Stephen Turnbull on Facebook with a PH, and Insure Guy 315 on Instagram. And you guys can reach out there and be more than happy to connect with anybody and chat and make some relationships. That's what I love doing.
Dude, man, thanks so much, man. Well, we're gonna definitely have to do a round 2 at some point because we got more to touch on.
Yeah,
but
sure.
but that'll be it for now. Thank you guys for tuning in. Follow Stephen. He's got some great content up there. We're on this journey to be the best versions of ourselves. So appreciate you guys tuning in. And again, we'll catch you in the next episode.